Coolio guys, and welcome back once again to another episode of Infinite Magicraid. In today's video though, we do have Luz, which unfortunately, hopefully I'm not slaughtering his name, is a legendary that I don't have yet, so I'm just going to cry. But if you are fortunate enough to pull him, I feel a lot of animosity and jealousy towards you because I would love to have him even if I don't have his exclusive weapon here. But anyways, he is an attacker type and he's also the fire mark, and once again I don't have him, so we just have his base stats shown up here. But his speed is more so on the speedy side of things. It's closer to the 1k, which there's other units above 1k, but from my analysis there isn't a large gap of units above 1k, so his speed is basically average slash slightly above average, kind of in between of those. And obviously with him being a attacker, his attack should be higher than his defense, which it is. But let's go and take a look at his skills here. So for his basic attack, which is Air Breakthrough, he deals 200% attack damage to a single enemy and deals an extra damage which caps at 200% of his attack by 5% of the target's max HP. That is very interesting. So essentially the more HP the target has, then even though it's 5% of that target's max HP, that's still going to do a hell of a lot of damage. Now if the target has a low amount of HP, there's a chance they're going to die if they get hit by the move, or if they're at low HP, the benefit of this move isn't great. But if the target has a ton of HP, even though it's kind of capped at part of Luz's attack, at least from the description of the skill, you're still going to get a benefit from this move. And with it fully booked up, it goes up to the standard 280% of his attack damage. And I don't believe the cap raises to. That would be nice if the cap raises, but I think it's a decent skill. I mean, it's a basic attack which you can use obviously every turn if you wanted to, but yeah, I think it's okay. And then moving on over here to his second skill called Double Strike. This is an active skill and it currently has a 4-turn cooldown. So it deals 2 stages of damage to a single enemy. So once again, more single target orientated, at least from his 2 skills thus far. And the first stage deals 60% of his attack damage and reduces the target's defense by 60% for 2 rounds. That's nasty. That is absolutely disgusting, especially the probability of that happening, which isn't amazingly high, but fairly reliable without any effect hit subs or any type of effect hit status going on there. That's already decent at 60%. And then the second stage deals 180% of the attack damage and surely lands a critical hit. So not only is this a 2-stage move, but he's applying defense down within the first part of the skill, which is the weakest part of the skill. And then for the second part of the skill, where he's guaranteed to crit, he deals more so of at least most of the damage right there. That right there is what I call smiley face gaming, you guys. If you're new to the channel, I say sad face gaming in scenarios where things are just not good and you're not having a good time. And I also say smiley face gaming if things are going well, and that's definitely going well. Is this going to be OP? Well, at level 5, we do keep that disgusting 4 freaking turn cooldown, which sucks. But at level 5, the damage for the second stage of the move gets increased by, once again, another 160%, which, if my math checks out, yeah, 340% of the damage for the second part. Keep in mind, your defense is lowered, and it's guaranteed to crit. Absolutely disgusting. Do I think it's going to be as strong as an ultimate? It depends on the character. Maybe not like a legendary like Sha, for example, but I can understand why it has a freaking 4-turn cooldown. And then moving on next to his Victorious Pursuit, which is his passive skill. For every 1% of HP the target loses, Luz's current attack has a 0.3 more crit rate before he deals damage. So, okay, the more HP the target loses, the higher his crit rate goes. I mean, with it fully booked up, these are talking about 0.5%, which is essentially results into 0.5% more crit rate per 1 HP of loss on the enemy, which isn't that much. But when you go ahead and factor in things like, okay, if they've lost 10% of the HP, that should then translate over to, what is that, 5% more crit rate, etc. So as they lose more HP, there's a higher and higher chance of him having more crit rate being added to his attack, once again kind of being more focused on getting more crit damage out of him the lower HP that they have. And once again, keep in mind too that his basic attack is also tied into max HP, so he's going to get the HP down, especially if he's built properly. So while this isn't spicy in itself, especially at lower HP thresholds, this could be problematic because chances are he's going to crit on you and it's going to hit like a butt cheek on a stick. And then over here we finally made it to his ultimate, which is called Submerged Dragon. And then at its level 1 base skill, it does have a 5-turn cooldown, and it deals 200% attack damage to all enemies, which is okay damage, nothing spectacular. And then it also deals extra damage, which caps at 300% of his attack by 5% of the target's max HP. Once again, we have that HP skill kind of integrated into his ultimate, just like his basic move. And it also has a 50% more leech rate to it. So it sounds like he's able to kind of heal off the skill alone, regardless if he has a leech set on him or not. So very, very interesting right there. Because that does add some, I wouldn't say self-sustainability, but some reliable source-ish of just making sure that he can get some HP back to kind of keep him surviving. So in a very tight situation, I could see this move not necessarily saving your butt, but it may be the HP that you need to kind of clear out a stage here. But with it fully booked up, it goes up to 260% of his attack damage to all enemies, which once again, this is an AoE. It's not going to have super duper high damage because, well, that would be just absolutely disgusting. And regardless of the unit's HP, that 5% is scaled off of their max HP and not his or not anyone else's. So once again, kind of sprinkles on top of the ice cream, but nothing too like fantastic in my opinion. But yeah, I think it works out just well, and it has a 4-turn cooldown. But I would say honestly, I mean, after you get past Submerged Dragon and his second skill over here, which has a freaking 4-turn cooldown, he's basically just going to be spamming his basic attack because he literally can't do anything else. So that's kind of the biggest downside to his kit, is that he has some potentially interesting moves. It's just that their cooldown rate is just super high, unfortunately. But anyways, moving on to his exclusive weapon here. If you can somehow pull multiple copies of him, congratulations, you have now won the lottery. Hand over your account. But at level 1, which is Double Strike, aka the move with the 4-turn cooldown, each stage deals extra damage, capped at 200% of his max HP, by 3% of the target's max HP. So I'm assuming that it gets boosted up from 5% to 8%, which I'm down with that. I'm down with punishing people for actually having HP, especially in a world boss situation where we know that their HP gate is just massive. That's going to be super helpful there. At level 2, Submerged Dragon, which is his ultimate, doubles the extra damage and its cap. That's huge. So wait a minute. So Submerged Dragon has 300% for its extra damage cap, and it goes by 5% of the target's max HP. With the exclusive weapon, however, Submerged Dragon goes up to 600% of Luz's attack, which is huge, especially for an AoE, and it raises its cap. So yeah, I don't think it's going to make the skill OP, but it's going to make sure that the skill hits like a butt cheek on a stick, which it already does. So once again, kind of a fantastic thing here. And then at level 3, Victorious Pursuit increases Luz's crit damage by percentage equal to his crit rate. So remember how, you know, the less HP a target has, the higher chance of him getting his crit off on the enemy. Well, this also adds into crit damage. So the lower HP that you have, basically the harder this dude is going to hit. So I'm definitely interested in Luz. He has an interesting kit here, which I unfortunately can't test out myself because I don't have him. But I will say that his skills, at least on paper, even though they do represent skills with a higher cooldown on them, sound very good. So if you guys have Luz, feel free to leave in the comments below if you guys think that he's worth it or not, because there's some scenarios where units on paper sound amazing, but in reality they are nothing like what they should be. But that's pretty much it for Luz, you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.